And we're live.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Access Astrology. I am Ann Ortley, an astrologer down here in Florida, where it is 73 and clear. And I am joined by Heather Roan Robbins.
Hi, from Ronan, Montana, where it is at the moment just about freezing. We've already had snow, it melted. Now it's been raining. It's supposed to kind of just go back and forth to the snow. Hopefully, just enough to give us a dusting for Christmas.
And Mark is somewhere on the road with weird internet. So he was here and he shall return, but he's traveling. So we don't know quite where he is. He's got spotty internet. So he'll be joining us soon because he's on the road for Christmas. Welcome to us talking about the week ahead. So we had the winter solstice. I keep saying the summer solstice, obviously in fantasy mode.
Yeah,
and
wishing that you were in the southern hemisphere, right?
And we have a big old finger of God. We've had a series of them forming as the sun goes through quincunx to Jupiter and quincunx to Uranus. So today we have we just had the finish of the quincunx, and then in a little bit we'll have Mercury roll through it. So these are all fated energies where we're being asked to look at our life in a different level and see our fate in a different way. We also have Venus and Mars, who are kind of hanging out together. They're only separated by 7 degrees over there. You can see them in the 6th house. And both of them are out of bounds until we get to January 4th when they come in. Now, when they hunt, you think of Venus in your chart. She's in the sign. You have Mars in another sign. So Venus has to shout across the chart to Mars and say, hey, honey, you know what I'd like? Because they're traveling together, and she's going to go into Capricorn this week. And then they're both in Capricorn. And then she's going to meet up with the sun, which is what we call a Venus star point or a Venus cazimi. And then she meets up with Mars. There's like this little muddle of energy that wants to go forward and is waiting for your instructions. So it's important when they hunt together. It's kind of like imagine the lion and the lioness kind of going looking at the wildebeest, right? Because they're working together and collaboratively, and they're going to meet up, and we're going to have a Sun-Venus cazimi. Now, the Sun-Venus cazimi is an 8-year cycle. There's a lot of information on the Venus star point out on the internet. Ariel Gutman, who's a good friend of Heather's and who Heather introduced Ariel to Mark and I, and we had a workshop with her, and Heather did too. You had it in Minneapolis, I think, and then we had
yours was in New York.
We were in New York, and then she's been doing this work. It kind of came in about understanding what your Venus star point is, which is the Sun and Venus cazimi that happens every 9.5 months. So oftentimes you'll have one in uterus, but you also can have one right after you're born. And that's your heart's direction. It's your heart's path. And then
that's where Venus and the Sun conjunct exactly.
Yeah.
At the closest to your birth.
Yeah. And you can see that Venus is right next to the sun. So she's going to have a cazimi with the sun in the next couple of days. But there's a new moon phase where they meet together and they start a project, which they did 4 years ago in around now. And now they're at the full moon phase where Venus is on the far side of the sun and she's bringing the energy out into the world. So you're going to watch for projects that you began in December of 21 kind of blooming and ripening out. Now, with Heather and Mark and I, that was when we really were doing a lot of podcasting because we had the pandemic, right? And there weren't any places to meet. So that's kind of, the time frame where we're like, I don't know that we're ever going to go back in a building again. And so the energy of expanding and looking, in my case, it's in a career house and a group house. So you're going to look at where 3 Capricorn is in your chart to see where that new full moon energy is of Venus and the sun, what you love and desire with Venus and what you create. But notice she's hanging out with Mars. So he's going to just supercharge her. And the two of them are off and running to create something. So it's a really interesting creative time as we have these fingers of God forming as all the Sag planets talk to the Jupiter and Uranus. And then they're like, okay, rock and roll. And then right as they finish talking to them, they square the Saturn Neptune, which is, okay, so now what's your dream? What's your dream? What's your dream? So everybody should be thinking this holiday and take time with your family to talk about your dream for the next chapter. Because when we give it words and we think about it, we describe it, we activate Mercury, the idea. And because you're going to hopefully be hanging out with people who love you, you're going to go, oh, then they go, yeah, you know what you could do, because Venus and Mars are together. So it's a very supportive sky right now for new projects or coming up with new project ideas or being launched. And, we have an organization in astrology called NCGR, and the president just wrote a letter, announcing the winners of the election. And, so one of my students is a wonderful woman, Maria Wander. She's going to be the president. And all I can think of is she's a lovely Capricorn. This Sun Venus Cazimi is, is a 4-year recognition of all the work, because she's put a lot of her heart and effort into, into building I think she did the social media for NCGR. So it's a result of, so that was one of when I read the email, I'm like, oh, this is like her reward for all that work that she did from her heart place. Think of it as your heart place. So
I have noticed that last Friday the sun and moon were both in Sagittarius, and then the sun entered on Saturday, the moon on Sunday, and that kind of almost, it was a new one in Sagittarius, but it went right into double Capricorn.
Yep.
Venus is following right now. Capricorn hates to hold still.
Yes.
That image of the mergoat that wants a dream, as you said, it's an important time to dream about where you want to be in 5 years and 10 years, where you want our country to be in 5 years and 10 years. And then, there is a reason why we make our New Year's resolutions in Capricorn season, that it's that's the other half of, besides first coming back to tradition over the Christmas holidays and the solstice holidays, we really come back to our roots. Then we start to say, and where are we going? What's our mountaintop? Where are we going to take it from here? And how do we grow into that? And so I'm really feeling that's beautiful. I'm noticing that there's tension in them now for a lot of people, that, where their work might be blossoming, that suddenly the anxiety about the future. I've known like 5 couples who's had arguments this week where suddenly their tension, like, we're worried about money, they're worried about process, and just kind of notice that if there's some anxiety about where are we going next, it's a healthy nudge, but slow it down. Take a deep breath. Come back to roots first. Know that some of that anxiety is Capricorn, and we need to take a deep breath. And instead of saying, why aren't we there at the top of the mountain now? If that's your goal, to achieve more financial security, put that out there as a shared goal. Now, how do we step that in that direction? Right. Have you seen that, Anne?
Yeah, a lot of people like we're making choices. Okay, we're maybe going to move. If we move, what do we do with the dogs? Like we're thinking or finding out things. It's also been a lot of reveals. Like we're having the Epstein files revealed. We're also having a lot of things being revealed in our private life that we maybe didn't know about, which affects how we look at things, because we're seeing it differently now.
I'm really feeling that also from Neptune and Saturn close in the last bit of Pisces. We're looking at all the illusions that we have not dealt with. We're also seeing how all the illusions, how AI is completely distorting, our understanding of what is real and what is not.
Yeah.
And that learning how to parse that apart, finding ways to parse that apart, where we can appreciate what it has to offer, but see the difference between that and what is our reality, and to really not let it do the work for us, because there's still a million mistakes. But it's also that it's easy to feed mistakes into the system, illusions and delusions and problems into the system. So really keep your thinking in process. There's going to be a huge shift on that this year.
Yeah. And also, to your point about addiction, there's a lot of energy with this about addiction story. So, I've been a little fascinated with the Rob Reiner case. And,
Mm,
to find out his partner, Carol O'Connor, who was the father and all in the family, had a son who has a drug addict problem at 16 and killed himself
mm,
around the same age that this murder went down. And so it's self-suicide because he was so taken over by the drugs and how it affected his mind.
mhm,
And so,
mhm.
I didn't know that, but it's kind of that energy. And then, of course, Michael Douglas had a child who was very addicted and spent a few years in prison, but is now apparently sobered up. So
I've also heard a rumor about, in the Rob Reiner case, that he had recently been diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is pretty clear,
Mhm.
and may have just started on some medicine that, with schizophrenic for medicine for many mental illnesses, it's a trial and error. They don't know what's going to work for you until they try it, and then they have to adjust it to make
Mhm.
it work with your particular system.
All right.
Um, and that in this one may have been way off uh, at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we're not sure if there was a legal drug that was administered to try to help, which actually hurt.
Mhm. Which
I'm not
actually,
sure about that. I do not have that verified, but that is what I've seen in a couple of
in
sources.
a few places. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Saturn Neptune
Yeah.
conjunction.
And the timing for the schizophrenia happens generally in the teens to the early 20s.
Hmm.
And that was when he kind of went off the rails with the
Yeah,
drug addiction. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I was being astrological astrologer, right? So I'm like, all right, so this kid has a pretty hard chart. And of course, the chart that you have when you're born is what your parents were going through. So I was curious what movies Rob was making when he was born. And he had one real dud, which nobody's mentioned in any of the thing, one that was horrible. Everybody hated it, got panned, lost all this money. And that
Oh,
happened when this kid was born.
aha.
Because I
So
was
that,
thinking, my thought was, well, maybe he filmed this when he was working on Misery,
yeah,
as
no,
the kids incarnated into the misery, and it was a pretty scary movie. But it wasn't. It was this failure. It was a big failure
interesting.
after all the success that he'd had with Stand by Me and the Spinal Tap and the Harry Met Sally, and the one with the kids, the four kids. Stand by Me is the one with the kids, yeah. And this was a failure. This was a flop. And Misery had come out before that. The kid was born. So it was, but I thought, oh, I wonder what movie he was working on, when the child was born,
That's
to
really interesting.
connect in with the parents, what the parents' energy is.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we have three charts to get through tonight.
Okay. Sounds good.
And this is from Freda, who says she loves our YouTube videos and never misses them.
Thank you,
She would like
Frida.
to thank you. We'd love a little advice on how the upcoming Saturn Neptune conjunction will affect her career in February, because her son is at that 1 degree.
Yeah.
She's had
Mhm.
taken a few years off of work, caretaking mom, and finding it really hard to get back into the real world. Is and what So I have her tripwheel and her natal chart here.
So is she
And
actually working yet, or is she just trying to
I
re
don't think so. I think she's trying to get back to work.
back to work? Okay.
That Saturn Neptune on her son will help.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, because
She's
she
going to be
has.
working hard.
Well, you have, Frida, you have the Saturn Neptune trine. Your Saturn's 10 and your Athena's 13, and it trines your Neptune. So
Hmm.
when we have the marriage of the two of them on your sun, it says, okay, and the sun rules the fourth house and the third house. Your work for the past has been taking care of your family member, totally appropriate with Saturn in the fourth. But now, as Saturn is going to go through all those Aries planets, that's going to be 2.5 years too. He's going to be trining the sun or trining the Saturn in your fourth, but he's also going to be initiating a new cycle. So, what were you doing back in 97, the last time Saturn was here on your sun? So, it's an echo and a repeat of that time also. But I do think it will be very positive. Neptune as the co-ruler of your vision for what your career is and how you relate in the outside world. So I kind of like that. Heather, I don't know if you know it, but we're not showing in the sides anymore.
We're not showing in the sides. Okay, well, we will have to put ourselves on. I'm not quite sure why.
Okay.
We are suddenly not
Well, it
on.
went away when we pulled the full chart up. So I don't even know if Mark's back.
Mark
Nope,
is
he's
there.
not.
We are. There
He's
we
not
are.
there.
But somehow we're here. But
We're here, but
Mark is not.
Mark is MIA. But I was
Up.
like, Mark out there,
He
and you,
just
there he is.
he.
Okay.
Hi, Mark. Are you there?
Here,
Hello.
I'm here.
Good.
Can you
He's
hear me?
back.
We can hear
We
you.
can hear
Where
you
are you?
now.
Okay. I'm in a studio practice room in the basement of the building.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
so it may not have that as
Great
good
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi down there.
Mhm.
But it was good to see you back. We're
Yay.
talking about Freda's chart. We've got 3 charts we're working through. And
Okay.
Freda's been taking time off to take care of her mom. Uh, and it wants to get back to work. And she's wondering about that Saturn Neptune conjuncting her sun. It looks like she will be working hard. Now, she stepped into her Mars in in Pisces, kind of stepping back from the world. She's got such a wonderful contradiction in her chart natally between that fire Saturn trining those fire planets that really wants to be involved and have work, and that Jupiter in the 12th and Mars in Pisces that really would rather not be out there and arguing with the world, would rather be inside and taking care of themselves. But it feels like there's some good energy coming over the next couple of years. In about 2 years, I think Uranus goes into her first house. Her progressed moon now is in Aquarius. It's in her house of work. I'd say kind of like to get back and find not a high demand job, but something that uses her group energy. In a couple of, next year, Pluto is going to be squaring that moon, and there may be a shift in what the needs are at home that will help her get back into work full time. But she may have to stay flexible until it's past that with what's needed at home, whether it's with her mom, caretaking, or finishing up estate work or some other layer there. So I'd say good luck on all of that. Anne, Mark, do you have any comments to make
Yeah.
on this?
The Pluto moon connections are really hard to navigate. And it's been with you with this caretaking situation. And now there's something more for you to resolve. So be prepared for something intense and really transformative in a way. Let yourself be changed by what is going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, don't just do the caretaking, but to look at the level beneath that, the connection that you have with your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also with the Mercury, your progressed Mercury is retrograde now, which rules your Gemini rising, as well as your 5th house, your home in your 5th house of creativity. So I would get in contact with people that you used to work with before and see if any of them have jobs or know of things. If you've lived in Seattle for a while, contacting old people, in the new year. And also notice the Venus and Mars, which we spent some time on in the sky. Up in your 11th house, you have Venus and Mars together by progression, and you see Mars is coming to the Mercury. That's what makes me think about talking to people that you've worked with before, and kind of saying to everybody, hey, I'm looking for work. Anybody know anything? And kind of looks good. And with the progressed Mercury coming back to your moon in Taurus, that would be a woman that you worked with, or, some kind of creative field you were in, kind of looking back in that energy. Moon is food, moon is creativity. If you worked in a design studio, or you worked in, in some kind of showroom or some kind of group environment, so it looks.
Good luck on that.
Mm-hmm. Before we go too far, Heather, let Mark, you want to weigh in on the week ahead? Heather and I spent some time on it. You want to have anything you want to add? I know he makes notes.
Yeah, it's nice for Christmas week because it's not too strange.
Yeah.
It's kind of a settle back and enjoy it week. And Venus is changing into Capricorn.
And the Pisces moon over
Over the
Christmas
holiday.
Day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I always like
Yeah.
the Pisces moon. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
Pisces
we
moon
have
is
Aries on Sunday when we travel back home. So the car rides will be fast and fixed and fun.
Hmm.
Mhm.
yeah,
And you don't have to fight with your family to have a reason to go elsewhere.
Right.
But it's a need to kind of deal with your peer group over the weekend, and just kind of process those feelings tomorrow and the next day,
Mhm.
as the
yeah.
moon is in Pisces.
You can feel some conflict over certain communications. There's somebody who wants to push a little hard on their ideas, and you can just let that be. Say, it's Christmas week. Let's just be cool,
Hmm.
and they will.
Like that. Yeah. Let's not fight. It's Christmas week, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm. And so on to uh,
Jennifer.
Jennifer, who says, again, we're getting all these Capricorn questions today. Um, this is, uh, thank you for the time you put into your podcast. It's my first question. I feel like it's a shedding year, but my question, and not to mention I'm a fire snake, my question is regarding to my career, 10th house. My industry is struggling. I have worked in the California wine industry since 1999, managing a small winery and focused on consumer sales and relationships. I don't enjoy it much, but I feel tied down by my age, position security, and paycheck. Do you see anything that points to changing my professional work in the year ahead? Um, and it was talking about midlife transits because she's really feeling her midlife transits,
Mhm.
and what so we what do you think? The Saturn returns are definitely part of that, but the Uranus opposition, which she's been through, is, I think, of one of the key midlife transits.
Mhm.
And she's coming out the other that can just feel restless. If you don't feel like you're on track, it's a real course correction time. Some people buy into, get their red sports car or run away and join the circus at that point. Like, what dreams did they have when they were young that they put away on a hold for a while? But it's also a course correction. If you like where you're going, fine. If you don't, how do you begin to direct it and to change it? She's had Pluto over her Mercury. It's Pluto opposed her Mars. There's been some rough transits over the last couple of years. There's a lot more freedom for her to step forward. And honey, you got plenty of time. Don't believe that your time is half over. Really, find it. Yeah, I often see people really walk into their dream work, after, in the second half of their life.
Yeah, I would agree. But that when you said that, I'm like, what the hell? She's a Gemini rising. Oh, her Mercury's in Capricorn. So
Hmm. Hmm.
she's like, yeah.
Hmm. Wait, that's not the wrong one. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm going to
that's
pull that back. Sorry, that's
okay.
not her chart. Then go back to
No,
her.
she's in the middle. Yeah.
All right,
That's
all
the
right.
tree.
So I'll get the right one up. So give her some advice, my dears, while I'm pulling up the right order of this chart.
Well, the security thing, the moon in Sag answers to not a crappy, but a Jupiter that's unstable. And then the unstable Jupiter answers to the Mercury. So the Mercury and Jupiter are in what we call mutual reception. So this means the chart can really worry as opposed to saying, okay, what is it I actually want to get done and do? And, there can be a little bit of with the Jupiter and the Saturn in a sextile to each other, there can be a little bit of, I'm not sure how to proceed. So with Saturn and Neptune meeting in your 11th house, I would say to you, gee, what was your dream? What did you want to be when you were younger? Like maybe 16ish, 15,
Mm-hmm.
16,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and start doing that not to say necessarily as a living, but to get you out and get your chart stimulated to think about different things, because you're also going to have Saturn. Saturn's an orb of your progressed sun and will be on it in February, beginning of March. So that's, and when you say 97, that's Saturn's back where he was in 97. So to you, I'm feeling like I should be leaving this work. When Saturn came over your south node, it kind of fell in your lap, I would imagine. But now it's a time for, well, like, what do I want to do? What is inspiring to me? And that's where we get into what your hopes and dreams are, and allowing yourself to be like, well, my dream is this. Your progressed Venus and your natal Venus are working together. So you'll have a Mercury retrograde in a couple of years. And that's also an opportunity for Mercury rising folk to find a new satisfying career. But right now, with that progressed moon in Virgo, bored out of your mind.
Bored
Just
out of your mind. And you've been doing heavy personal family karma slogging while
yeah,
the progressed moon has been down there. But the progressed moon's going to be out of there within 5 months,
5 months.
out of your fourth house, and starting to asking you to be more creative in 9 months when it goes into Libra. Now,
Mhm.
you were born with that Moon Neptune conjunction, so I can understand why you've ended up around wine. But you're with that Moon in Sagittarius and your Sun and Mercury in the ninth house. Instead of sales, I mean, which I think you can do, there's something about traveling, about feeling a part of an international community, about educating people about wine or taking them on tours related to wine, rather than and working the international aspect of it more than the in a smaller group or with just those people. It might be something about the international networking with that, or something else Neptunian, which is you have a strong that Aquarian, I like you want to believe that you're helping to make the world a better place. So how can, is it for the working rights of the people around the wine industry? What can you do that's not drop and start over again, but redirect and end up in a direction that might work for you? Mark,
Yeah,
do you have?
definitely pay attention to working with groups that you haven't been with yet. Identify some groups that will respond to your way of looking at the world and the world of wine. It's not over for the world of wine. And so there's plenty of room for you to operate within that world. And you'll do it best by connecting with a group.
Ah, and again, I think all of us, all of the questions we got today were about what's our life's purpose. And it's okay to feel the discomfort that Capricorn is nudging you, and
Mhm.
not to be unhappy, but to see what else. How can you expand it? Feel that discomfort, not that you're on the wrong track, but it might be time to have an avocation to push
Mhm.
your work in a larger direction or a slightly different direction to make sure that it's still on target with your heart.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you do have some stuff. I almost feel like saying, take a when you have an opportunity, maybe sign up to be a wine person on a cruise ship or something like
Mhm.
that, and get the travel in, because you do have the Mars in Cancer retrograde, and now it's gone direct. So there is, with Jupiter on the Mars, some kind of traveling opportunity. And it could be, signing up with wine places to, for you to go and bring your expertise rather than them coming to you.
Right.
So that might be a fun way to kind of imagine and then get out and expand into, well, what else could I do in this field? You know.
So we are uh, wrapping up our time.
Mhm.
We're going to just say that tomorrow, when the moon goes into Pisces and Venus goes into Capricorn, to kind of be tender to your heart and to use the next couple of days about remembering your roots, remembering what's underneath you. The solstice was on Sunday. The sun has been standing still, the stis part of the solstice. And it will, tomorrow morning is the first day that the days grow slightly longer. And then we celebrate the return of the sun, however you want to spell that. So uh, this is Heather signing off from Ronan, Montana. And any last words from Mark and Ann?
Just have a good holiday. Just be with your heart with the Pisces moon. And turn off the lights. and sit and look at the Christmas tree lights, or light the room with candles and sit in the dark, because that's a very Piscean. Listening to instrumental music rather than, Burl Ives singing "Holly Jolly Christmas." Listen to instrumentals of it, right?
Right. Don't
Mark?
feel pressure. Let it be a Christmas without pressure.
Yeah.
And Mark, do you have anything last to say?
No, I think we're ready for Christmas.
Okay. So goodbye, and goodbye from Ronan, Montana. Remember, you can contact us for individual readings in the meantime for any of us. This is Heather from Montana saying goodbye. And
And from Florida saying goodbye.
And Mark from New York City.
In a
take care.
studio with bad Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
We'll see you
See
next
everybody
week.
later. Bye,
Take
everybody.
care.
Have a
Bye
good
bye.
holiday. Bye.